All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Morris, and I'm the Director of Career Services, and we're very excited tonight to be joined by several of our sport management alumni that are going to talk to you about their time at Niagara University in the program, some of their experiential learning, as well as their current careers. All of the alumni currently work in collegiate athletics. And the panel tonight is going to be moderated by Andrew Chesebro, who is a 2007 alum, is currently the Assistant Director of Marketing and Communications for Harvard Varsity Club, and has worked in college athletics since his time at NU. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew. Just a couple of things. We do encourage questions. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box. And I will let Andrew handle introducing the panel.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you for everyone that's joined us tonight. We've got a really talented panel with us who's really going to do the heavy lifting tonight. So I'd like to introduce first Alexis Wayne. Alexis, if you can give a little wave so everyone knows who you are. So Alexis earned her undergraduate degree in sport and recreation management in 2013 before she earned her master's degree in sport management from Niagara in 2015. She is currently the Director of Athletic Operations and Communications at Daemen College, and she was formerly at the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. For those of you who don't know, that's the athletic conference that Niagara participates in. And at the MAAC, she was the Associate Commissioner for Women's Basketball and Olympic Sport. We also have Margot Hickey with us. Margot graduated in 2015 with a minor in sport and recreation management before earning her master's degree in sport management in 2016. And Margot is the coordinator of intramural, recreational, and club sport at St. Bonaventure. And she previously has worked at both Edinburgh University and Florida Gulf Coast in intramural and recreational opportunities. Taylor Bosket is with us. He received his undergraduate degree in 2017 and his MBA from Niagara University in 2019. And Taylor is the manager of ticket sales and operations at George Mason University. And last but not least, Kyle Barker is class of 2019. And Kyle is the coordinator of broadcast and multimedia production at Niagara University. So really, thank you all for being a part of the panel, but I really want to jump right into the meat of this and just ask why Niagara, and more specifically, why you chose the sport and recreation management track at Niagara. And let's start with Alexis first.
Sure. So I had a little bit of a unique path. I was a student athlete at Niagara University, so I played softball. So that was something I was looking for when I was, exploring colleges. I'm from Western New York, so Niagara was appealing that, it was only 45 minutes from home. My parents could come watch my games, the home games, but, also just heard so many great things about the College of Hospitality and specifically the sport management program. I think like a lot of us on this panel and probably some of the students that are listening now knew that, I wanted to work in sports, but really didn't know what sport management meant. So, got to visit, actually probably visited with Professor Gentile when I came to visit Niagara and just, made it sound appealing. There's so many opportunities. There's an 800-hour requirement that you must do as a student. And, at first I was like, whoa, 800 hours, but, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but those hours, that's how you learn what really is the sport industry. So for me, it was a little bit of softball and academics, but that's really what drew me to Niagara.
Margot, what about you?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a unique path as well. My undergrad is actually in psychology. It wasn't towards really the end of my junior year that I realized I wanted to switch and go to sport management. So I added the minor and graduated, and then I knew right away I was going to come back for my master's in sport management to get that experience. So undergrad, I did a little bit with helping game day operations and things like that for basketball and hockey games. And then doing my master's, I worked at the Kiernan Recreation Center, which is the fitness facility for all students at Niagara, working with the club sports and some intramural stuff there. I did a summer internship at SUNY Brockport while I was doing my master's. So yeah, that was kind of my path. And then I chose Niagara from the start. Really, because just as soon as you walk on campus, if you haven't been there already, you just get that community feeling right away. Being a small school, but also having Division I athletics was also really appealing to me. And just knowing that, again, with a small school, that professors really get to know you and you get to know them. That was really, that's what drew me to it.
Taylor?
Yeah, for me, it was a few of the things that were already talked about, but I would say probably the two biggest things for me were, so initially I thought I wanted to do sport broadcasting, but then I found out about sport management and just more opportunities that were available by doing a sport management degree. So I went and did that, and from my research, I found that getting experience was going to be key. So the fact that it was a D1 school that I could go and intern with and get experience through that. But also, I think one of the big things for me was the fact that compared to some of the other schools I was looking at, Niagara was one of the only ones that was going to allow me to take sport management classes my first year. And that was something that I really wanted to do right away. I didn't want to go somewhere and, be doing a lot of gen eds that I wasn't going to, be all that much interested in. So really getting that opportunity to first semester freshman year to get some sport management classes, that was a big thing for me.
That's great. Kyle?
So mine is kind of a collection of all of these other components you just heard. My path was quite interesting to me. I'm originally from the Syracuse area, and there's an American Hockey League team there. And while I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of had the nerve to ask the management there, like, what goes on here, right? So in high school, I started doing stuff with this team, really small stuff, just helping them out. And there was an alum of the sport management program at Niagara there. Me and Taylor know him quite well. His name's Jonathan Smalden, and Professor Gentile's laughing. But he now works for the New York Jets. And as I was getting into my junior and senior year of high school, he kept telling me, you need to go take a visit. You need to go take a visit. And Niagara wasn't even on my radar. Like, I didn't know anything about it. Once I got here, I met with Professor Gentile, learned kind of the landscape. It was only like a 2.5 hour drive for me, 800-hour requirement, and I was sold. It took one visit. It took literally a half an hour meeting with Professor Gentile and walking around campus, Division I atmosphere, and knowing I'd have the opportunity to right away step in and find myself in opportunities to further advance myself. I was hooked from the second I got here. So that's kind of my path of how I ended up at Niagara.
Yeah, it's funny that Kyle mentions that, because there were two people, Jonathan at an accepted student reception in the Syracuse area, as I'm also from Syracuse, and Professor Gentile during one of my many visits to Niagara. I had one conversation with each of them that really kind of sold me on going to Niagara as well.
That's great. Thank you for adding that. That's a great segue to our next topic of conversation. I want to talk a little bit about relationships with faculty and staff at Niagara. It's been brought up a few times. It's a small communal college where you really get a chance to form relationships with other classmates and with the faculty and staff members. Can you talk a little bit about those relationships you built and how that helped you throughout your undergraduate career and now post-graduation?
Yeah, I can start. For me, and I think Margot mentioned it right off the bat, that, that was one of the most appealing things, is that I knew I wasn't going to be sitting in a 300-person lecture hall. For me, I'm a very hands-on learner. I like to be active in class. I think Professor Gentile would agree with that. So, right away, I noticed that they were there for us. The professors are there for you. It is like a 1-2, I'm not sure what ratio it is, but and for me, again, going back to like the student athlete life. So, I had a little bit of a crazier schedule than some students, but they're so accommodating. They were so accommodating. They worked around my schedule. I'm sure they stayed later than they wanted to at sometimes, just to meet with me. And then, but yeah, just the relationships. I still have relationships with all of my professors that I had when I was there today, whether it's through social media or a simple text or, hey, I'm coming to the area. Why don't we meet up for a coffee or whatever it is and just kind of see where I am. So that just shows me that they truly do care about me and my career path through the sport industry. So.
Great, thank you. Margot?
Yeah, same. Like I said, just right away, knowing that you're going to get to really know your professors. You can go to their office hours whenever. They'll respond to emails, calls, texts, even if they're tech savvy. And then also with me, I mentioned I worked at the Kiernan Center, and my bosses there were just wonderful as well. So really I worked other student jobs on campus too. So any staff or faculty that you come in contact with, I know for me, most of them left a lasting impression. And I still am in contact with my former bosses from the Kiernan Center, because I do similar stuff now at St. Bonaventure. So I'm always talking to them, getting ideas from each other, and what would you do in this situation, sort of thing. And we had an alumni happy hour a couple weeks ago, and Professor Gentile and the other two current professors were on that, and it was great to catch up with all of them. And of course, and they remember everybody. I don't think they'd ever forget a face or anything. So that's what's great about it.
Kyle, Taylor, anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. The relationships are a big part. I know I still try to keep up with not only relationships with the faculty, but also whether it be people in athletics that you interned with that you have those relationships. For example, Alexis was actually one of my supervisors as an intern in the ticket office. So that me and her have stayed in touch ever since then. Dr. Rhodey, who I know is on this call, me and her try to do a Zoom at least once a month and catch up. So it's really those relationships that you build and grow during your 4 years at Niagara that will continue after you leave.
Yeah, and to continue on that, the relationships do continue when you move on. Obviously I'm working at Niagara post-graduation, and I probably annoy Dr. Rhodey, Gentile, and Tuka all the time, asking them for kids, to come work our broadcast. But even while I was a student at Niagara, all the time, I'd be in one of their threes offices, and it's not even the fact that they'll help you on some of the academic stuff as well. They'll just talk to you in normal conversation. I've had some of the best conversations with Professor Gentile, Dr. Rhodey, Dr. Tuka, and they're not even sport related. They're just good conversations to have. And they can give you life lessons. It doesn't have to be all about the academic space either when you're with them. And that's how comfortable they are allowing students in and having those conversations.
That's terrific. Thank you. I think Margot brought it up in one of her original answers, the 800-hour, or Margot or Alexis, I'm sorry, the 800-hour practical experience that is part of the requirement of graduating from the College of Hospitality and Tourism. I think the five of us, we all spent a lot of time volunteering and working for the Niagara Athletics Department. I'm curious to know, you touched on it a little bit, just how exactly you got involved originally with the athletics department, and what different roles did you take on throughout your 4 years? We'll start with Taylor.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Get in trouble. No, go in a different order.
Yeah, I'll start. So it's funny, for me, it actually started before I even stepped into a classroom at Niagara. I sent an email to the interim athletic director at the time saying, I'm an accepted student to Niagara. I know I have in the sport management program, I know I have an 800-hour graduation requirement. What roles do you have that I can get involved in? And he responded with, I'd love for you to work in the ticket office. Here's who you can, talk to get in there once you get to campus. So that's how it started for me. And then, I was terrified, honestly. I was not a kid who was very outspoken. So my idea of ticket sales at that time was I was going to be picking up the phone and calling people all day, every day that I was in the office. And really over my 4 years, I really grew into the role that I had, so much so that I ended up getting hired as the GA when I was done with undergrad, for ticket operations with the athletic department, which also then in turn during that time I oversaw promotions during the games and writing the game scripts and doing those type of things. So I really had a lot of great opportunities all from that initial email and then just kind of working my way up from there.
Great. Kyle?
So I got to campus and I started with the athletic communications office, which is what I'm in now. We're now called strategic communications. But when I started, when I was like a freshman, sophomore, I was doing more of the operation type stuff. So I would just sign up to work games and whatever games there would be. Ironically, it was Tim Schultz who coordinated all that. So, we would go and we would set up the scoreboard. We would set up the flags for corner kicks for soccer. We would do the timing sheet. I mean, all this kind of crazy stuff you would never think that needed to be done. And during my time, I always had a passion for video. So I kind of was just, hey, I like to do this, I like to make videos, shoot videos, whatever. So then as time went on, by the time I was a junior, I was really doing some video work. And then senior year, it exploded. I was doing nothing but video in the athletic comm office. And so I kind of touched base with two areas, but the 800 hours seems daunting at first, and it's not at all. It goes by quickly and it's easy to surpass it, really easy to surpass it.
Margot, how about yourself?
Yeah, like I said, it was a little bit different for me because it wasn't towards end of junior year and then senior year where I really started to get involved in the sports side of things. But like I said, I did a little bit with taking tickets on game days, some of the promotion stuff for hockey and basketball. And then while undergrad as well, I participated in club sports. I did hockey and lacrosse, and I was an officer for the team. So that was another big exposure to the recreation side. And that's how I kind of fell in love with the rec side of things as well. And that helped convince me to come back for my master's and work at the Kiernan Center as like a club sports assistant. And working with the administrators there. And then doing my master's, I did a recreation internship over a summer at SUNY Brockport. And that was a great experience as well, just getting to experience another school and the kind of stuff that they do as well.
Alexis?
Yeah, and again, for me, I keep mentioning the student athlete life that I had, but I think it's important to note that, so during the school year, I was pretty busy with softball and academics. So then I used the summers to get involved. So, I worked with the Western New York Flash. I had an internship with them. And then, but, like you said, Andy, realized NU Athletic Communications is literally 10 feet from, where I lived on campus. So reached out to Derek Thornton, who's still there today in the Athletic Communications office. And he was like, I'll work with you. He was, again, going back to that, everyone is flexible. Everyone is willing to make you better as a person. So he said, hey, you can only work this amount of games, come when you can. And I think that's where, Kyle touched on it a little bit. I truly realized what goes into putting on a game. For the most part, you just think the ball tips and that's it. But truly learned like the communication side, the operation side. I remember one of the first things I did, I was a stat runner. And I think back and I'm like, at the time, I was like, what the heck am I doing? I'm literally delivering paper, right? And for any of you who doesn't know, they print out the stats, from each quarter or halftime, whatever it is, each media timeout, you take them to the media and to the coaches. And it's like, now I look back and for me now in my role at Daemen, those people are my most important, one of my most important staffers for my student staff, because if they mess up or if they don't show up or, we truly rely on them. So I just look back and that's, how I built trust with people at Niagara and then now how I trust my students at Daemen. So.
That's good. And the purpose of the 800-hour practicum is really to gain experience, to give you a leg up after you graduate, to differentiate yourself from other people applying for jobs for the first time. I'd love to hear each of you how your experiences as an undergraduate and then as graduate students working for the Niagara Athletics Department impacted your decision to pursue a career in collegiate athletics? Alexis, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I graduated in 2013 and kind of had that notion of, okay, like what's next? You know, like is someone just going to come in with a job on a platter? So that's when I decided to pursue a master's degree. So again, I think I went, you know, I tied it back to, you know, the experience in the communications department, the experience of really just talking to the administrators at Niagara. Cause again, like when I'm a freshman in college, I really didn't know what, you know, assistant athletic director for operations means, assistant athletic director for compliance. I didn't know what that meant. So just having those conversations. And then, you know, when I went to apply for grad school, just having that experience on there, having the student athlete experience on there, but, you know, just having people have my back. I think if they were to call anyone at Niagara, they would say that, you know, I worked hard, trustworthy, et cetera. So yeah, if I didn't have the experience at Niagara, I wouldn't probably have gotten into grad school or gotten those jobs post grad school. So definitely had a huge impact.
Margot, what about you?
Yeah, definitely working on the recreation and the Kieran Center, that really just solidified it for me. I could tell just every day that the two bosses there, the administrators, they loved their job. You know, they enjoyed coming to work every day. It's not the type of job where you sit in an office all day. You know, you get to be up and moving around and working with students and planning events, working events, that sort of thing. And they loved it, and I knew that I would love it too. So, you know, while I was doing my master's, like I said, I did a summer internship and then doing a couple of internships post-grad as well. And then now in my full-time position at St. Bonaventure. Again, like kind of like Alexis said, I knew like recommendations, my boss at Niagara knew my current boss here. And I know maybe without that, maybe I wouldn't have gotten this job, but I know he gave me a glowing recommendation because of hard work and everything. So just making those relationships will always help you in the future.
That's great. And Taylor and Kyle, it sounds like you guys may have already had a sense entering Niagara what you wanted to do with a career. Can you talk a little bit about how the opportunities in the Niagara Athletics Department allowed you to get a step ahead of competition when it came to jobs post-graduation?
You want to go first, Taylor?
Yeah, I can. I'll go first. So it's funny that you say that because absolutely 4+ years ago, I did not think I would be doing ticketing, but I got into that role and it was probably the year that Alexis was the GA when I really realized this is what I want to do. Like I found the areas of ticketing that I really enjoyed. I realized it wasn't just picking up the phone all the time, all day, every day. Certainly, you know, that is part of the job, but there are so many more things to ticketing that people don't realize. So, you know, I really grew into it and found a passion for it and, you know, we talked about relationships a lot. I developed a lot of really good relationships with, you know, like Alexis when she was the GA or some of the other GAs that were there while I was in undergrad, but also some of the folks in the athletic department as a whole, and kind of worked my way up and kind of showed some value to them to the point where when I was a GA, you know, I was having conversations with senior level athletic directors about changing our pricing structure, which as a GA, probably many people aren't involved in. So you know, going to variable pricing, you know, where certain games are more expensive than others, doing a subscription-based offering for recent alumni as opposed to a full season ticket package. Those were all conversations that I got to be involved with and have some input on that ultimately, I think when it came time for me to interview places, definitely gave me a leg up.
Great.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, Taylor, and showing value. I'll get back to that point in a second. When I first came to campus, I knew I wanted to do video, but I also knew that if I didn't branch out and try and do some other things, I wouldn't have a full picture of what's going on all the time, which is why I chose to start in operations, because the most available spots were there. And I just kept showing my value and my work, showing up on time. And it's super easy to do. But I just made sure I was there, did what I was told, and then the opportunities came from there. And like Taylor said, when you show your value, the good things can happen. And in my case, it led not only to me having a job at Niagara post-graduation, but when I was a senior, I did a ton of stuff with the hockey team primarily, and got a ton of access into what goes on behind the scenes and just day-to-day operations of a team. And that's stuff that students almost never are really going to be that involved with. And just because I was there and could show, trustworthiness and value, your opportunities will grow exponentially with those two factors. And for me, like I said, it ended up in me staying here. It was kind of a perfect storm for me to stay and take a job here. But it was all because of the networking I had done and the hard work I had put in to show the people here that I can do this, right? So that was a good point from Taylor that I can relate to especially well.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing that all four of you in some way have touched on both mentorship and networking, and the importance of mentorship and networking. And I can speak from my own experiences. I've essentially had 3 jobs since I graduated with Niagara, and each one has been because of a mentor or somebody in my network that was willing to, speak up on my behalf, or at least to put my name forward to get my resume moved higher up in the pile to get a look. You still have to do the work at the end of the day once you get the call to secure the job. But can you guys each speak a little bit about the power of your network and your mentors from Niagara and how that they have helped your career progression to date? We'll start with Margot on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Like I had mentioned, my boss at Niagara, when I was working, he knew my current boss at St. Bonaventure now. So just having that relationship, and I know I told my current boss when I was applying to the job, and he said right away, I'm going to give Rob, who's my boss now, a call and just talk about, your work ethic and how you've helped grow, grow programs and that sort of thing. So having that mentor definitely helped. It also helped getting the couple of post-grad internships that I had as well. Just having someone, as a reference on your resume and stuff, and knowing that it's someone reliable, that when they get a reference call, they're going to say great things about you. So it's always great to have those relationships.
Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, for me, definitely, the mentorship part was huge. My mentor at Niagara, who was, that interim AD at the time that I reached out to, really me and him built a great relationship over my time there. We still keep in touch. And honestly, and a lot of, especially the basics to start, because I had no ticketing experience. I mean, my only sales experience was working as a cash register at an Office Max in high school. So he really taught me a lot, and was willing to allow me to grow, allow me to share my input freely and openly, and offer suggestions, especially when I got to those GA years. And I think a lot of times we think about our mentors as people who are working in the industry, but at Niagara, certainly Professor Gentile, Dr. Rohde, and Professor Tucka, they're all mentors. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with all of them, especially when it came time to applying for jobs and interviewing. I probably went and sat in their offices once a week, and they probably got annoyed of me sitting in their office. But they were willing to have me sit there and talk about my options and give me honest feedback. So your mentors are more than just those who are actually, working in whether it be a college athletic department or a professional athletic department, but definitely each one of the faculty members was a mentor to me as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alexis?
Yeah, I think for me, I'll just start off by saying athletics is a huge industry, but it's small in the fact that everyone knows everyone. And I learned that very quickly when, I finished my master's at Niagara and, like we've all talked about, developed those relationships with professors and again, had that where am I going next moment. And that's when I applied to be an intern with the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. As we talked about, was my previous job from where I am today. And immediately I knew it was going to happen where they called my supervisor at Niagara. So, and it's like we mentioned, it's Niagara's conference. So they knew each other. And now how I got my current job at Daemen, the athletic director of Daemen used to work at Canisius, where I worked with her my 3 years at the MAAC. So I think, Niagara, it's where my roots are. It's where I started. It's where I, learned how to create relationships. And like everyone's mentioned, develop those relationships and maintain those relationships. It's a two-way street. There's no reason why I can't pick up the phone and call, oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so. Well, do the outreach. But, I just say that's exactly the route I took and everyone knows everyone. So building that trust and building that value as people have talked about is really important.
That's great. And Kyle, I was hoping we could shift gears slightly and just talk a little bit more about experiences that are opportunities that are available to students today. You're working in the Niagara Athletics Department, you're employing a ton of students on your broadcast production crews. Can you talk a little bit about what opportunities there are today for current students in the athletics department?
Oh man, where do I start? So just within my area, just within the broadcast area, I mean, I can facilitate 10 to 15 students on just one broadcast. And those positions are all anywhere from working the replay computer, working our audio board, doing the graphics for an ESPN show. And a lot of kids that I have really enjoy it because they find it really satisfying to see their work get an output to a network like ESPN, or whatever network we may be on that particular night, right? So that's my realm. There's also creative video shooting. So people that are shooting just for social media content, graphics, editing graphics in Photoshop for our game day graphics, even down to like our timing sheets that are in the building operational. So there's the operations piece. Can work the scoreboard, can work the shot clock, can be a penalty box attendant. Whenever we do get the opportunity to have our fans back, we can have ushers, we can have people helping out in the purple and white club. Am I missing any, guys? There's so many.
It's funny. You start going through these and you start bringing up memories of, working the penalty box at hockey games, working the scoring sheet at hockey games, and having to go into the locker room in between periods and interrupt the coaches as they're having their strategy sessions to get them to sign off on certain things. And it's funny, you forget just how many different opportunities there are. Mm-hmm. And we were fortunate at Niagara that our professors gave us more opportunities than just what was available in the athletics department, right? Niagara is the only school in the country that owns their own baseball team. Niagara University owns a collegiate wooden bat baseball team that operates each summer, fully operated by current undergraduate and graduate students, right? I believe Professor Gentile, I'm going to forget the exact number, but I believe there's 15 to 20 full-time interns each summer that operate this baseball team. And then there's trips to different locations. I went on a trip to Scottsdale, Arizona for a convention with our professors, and I went on a trip to Savannah, Georgia. Did you guys have similar experiences going off campus to enjoy some of these experiential learning opportunities?
Yep. For sure.
Yes.
What was your most memorable one?
Coming to visit you at Harvard.
Yeah, I hope that was the most memorable one.
So that was one of our sport management association trips, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Go
ahead, Taylor.
So that, I mean, that club, it's amazing to see what that club has done over the years, and just how far it's come. They, you know, they try to do 1 or 2 trips a year, usually one that's local, then sometimes one that's a little further away, to go to different, you know, networking events or career fairs, or I'll never forget the Boston Career Fair that we did with Professor Gentile. So different events like that, certainly the Harvard trip where we went and did a Harvard experience with Andy, and he showed us around campus and all their different facilities. So doing a lot of things like that, but not only that, but like when you get to be an officer in that club, if that's something that you want to do, you're the one planning those trips. So you're preparing the club's budget for the semester. You're preparing the itinerary for the trip. I know me and Kyle had some fun times doing that, and the different events that we were going to do. So it's all those, and you're running the club social media. Like, you are doing everything to do with the club, and you're getting all of that experience to put on your resume.
And I'll interject here quickly if I can. There are also other travel type opportunities that are not even related with the club. So I know Professor Gentile does spring training a lot. I never did that. I can't speak to it. But there's, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Gentile, I hope that this is coming back when COVID is not, when COVID is gone. But when I went to England for 13 days, I think, when I was a student, and that was a class. That was just an international sport class. And that was another way to get experience somewhere else. And it was outside North America. And it was the best 13 days I have ever had. It was eye-opening and it was a blast. But the point of it is there's opportunities everywhere. It doesn't have to just come from the club or come from the professors. You can even seek stuff out yourself. You know, there could be conferences that you may have a really big interest in, and the professors can help you to get you there as well. So there's so many different avenues you can go on that kind of route.
Yeah, I mean, the MAAC tournament, that was one that I did a few years. You know, Alexis helped us get that a couple of times, but certainly, you know, that was another one of those experiences that Kyle talks about, that, you know, a handful of basketball tournament.
Great. I want to shift gears just slightly and dig into Alexis and Margot. You have, you know, pretty unique perspectives working in the collegiate industry, and I want to dig into those a little bit. Alexis, with you specifically about your experience at a conference office, can you talk a little bit about that and how it both differs from working for a school, but how it better prepared you for your current opportunity?
Yeah. So, you know, I was fortunate enough to be an intern with the MAAC before getting hired full time. So, you know, I always talk about when I was an intern, I was like, oh, you know, what does a conference office do? Who can I shadow? You know, so my title was, they hired 3 interns to do kind of everything: compliance, operations, communications. So that was great because I kind of figured out I did not want to do compliance, but I love the ops side and I enjoy the communication side. So, you know, conference office, I would say the biggest thing is a lot of people are like, what does a conference office do? You know, like conference championships are only, you know, 1 weekend out of the year. And people always talk about the basketball championship because, you know, the MAAC is a basketball centric conference. So, you know, that was my role when I got hired full time, was women's basketball. So, you know, you are serving the conference, you are serving the 11 schools. So, you know, if one of the coaches, they have an issue, one of the schools, they're calling you, you know, you are the point person of the conference office. And I think, you know, the MAAC, comparing it to Daemen and Niagara, it's a small office, it's a small conference. There used to be pre-COVID 12 people full time and then three interns. So you're really, they're looking to you to fix the problems, to you know, fulfill their needs. So for me, transitioning from the conference office, doing everything from outside events to conference championships to learning how to deal with officials, that was something, you know, I never really had to deal with. But So then transitioning to Daemen, where, now I'm doing more of just game days. So it's simple game days as opposed to multi-day tournaments. But yeah, everything I learned at the MAAC is what, got me the job and what I've transferred into my role at Daemen, dealing with coaches, dealing with officials, learning how to have those conversations and knowing what goes into events.
And Margot, when we think of collegiate athletics, our mind immediately goes to the varsity sport programs, but we often undervalue the importance of club, intramural, and recreational opportunities. You are the one of this group that really has an opportunity to touch every student on campus and not just the varsity athletes. Can you just tell us a little bit about, how you, what that means to you and the opportunity to serve all the students on campus?
Yeah, definitely. I honestly love it. I love coming to my job every day. I love being able to work with all different types of students and people from different backgrounds and everything. And I love it too, because it forces me to, always be creative and innovative, coming up with things that cater to the entire student body, not just the varsity athletes, like you said. So, figuring out what new intramural sports do students want to see that are really big right now, or a small group of students that's trying to start a new club, and how can I help them find more students and get that started, and sort of thing. And I'm always involved in we call it student development. So I'm managing all different types of student staff, from the rec center to intramurals, the rock wall staff. So really just engaging with them on a daily basis, and being a sort of mentor to them as well, like I had when I was at Niagara. And trying to, just help them grow as a person, both academically and within their entire life. So, yeah.
That's great. And, just trying to be aware of our time here, looking towards the end. Let's fast forward a year from now, and COVID is no longer a thing. We're all back on campuses full time. Everything is in full swing. Let's just go around the horn real quick and just tell us what a typical day in your life would look like in your role. We'll start with Alexis.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll compare it to a typical game day. So leading up to games on campus, I'm expected to be at all home contests. So whether that's soccer, volleyball, basketball, whatever it is. So again, starting with the scripts that we've talked about. So for anyone who doesn't know what the script is, that's kind of laying out all media timeouts, when you hear sponsors, when you hear music playing, when you hear contests going on. So filling all those holes. So that's leading up to that, whether if it's a Friday game day, I'm probably working on that a couple days before and getting that ready. Getting ready, sending out information to the visiting team. That's something that I do. I'll send out, hey, this is where you park. Hey, this is where our recommended restaurants are, recommended hotels. And it's funny you said the piece about COVID, because I'm currently tweaking that visitor's guide to make it COVID friendly right now. So, but yeah, so everything from, being in touch with the away team, being in touch with the officials so they know where to go. And then also student workers is a huge part of my job. I'm in charge of them. So getting people lined up to work, making sure they know their role, making sure they know what to wear, what time to be there, everything like that. So yeah, anything operations, communications, that's under my hat. So that's a typical day in a quick nutshell.
Perfect. Taylor, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's certainly managing. So I manage our in-person box office that fans can come to purchase tickets to any of our ticketed sports. So for me, day to day, it's doing things to do with that, whether it be answering incoming calls or looking into the office email and seeing if we have any emails. Doing the daily reports, seeing, how many tickets did we sell the night before? How much money are we bringing in for these games? Are we hitting our numbers that we need to be hitting? What kind of inventory is currently available for people to purchase online? Is there anything I can do to improve on that inventory? So it's different things like that, whether it be me doing those or it be me working with our interns on doing some of those tasks. But those are the main tasks that I'm focused on a day-to-day.
Kyle, what about yourself?
I'm kind of lucky. My day hasn't changed all too much, even with COVID. But like a typical, say it's not a game day, it's a pretty typical. You come in 9, leave at 5. I'll work on a couple videos. I'll schedule my staff out. I'll troubleshoot anything in here if something maybe wasn't working right the last game, etc. But a game day is long. So, if it's a 7 o'clock basketball game, let's say, I'm usually here by 9, 8:30 maybe. Try to get all the cords, all the cameras, all the wiring set up by 1 o'clock at the latest. And then, crew will start showing up, and, we'll go through crew call. We'll go through, players to watch. What do the camera people need to be aware of tonight? What does the audio person need to be aware of tonight? Are there any special things we need to run, etc.? And I always try to get here an hour earlier than what I think I'll need, because more times than not, I need that hour to fix something. So I always plan an hour back, make sure I can have a full slate a day. And then once the game runs, we run the game. We broadcast it. We try to make it as clean and smooth of a show for the viewer to watch as possible. And then we take it all down. Thankfully, when we take it all down, everyone's here by now. So that goes much quicker than putting it up. But we'll take it down, and, I'll do highlights in the press conference, and that can depend. Sometimes I'm out of here by 11. Sometimes it's 1 a.m. It just depends on the night.
And Margot, what does your typical day look like?
Yeah, typical day, I might be meeting with, club sport officers to make sure their games are set, their travel, they have a hotel, they have a bus or whatever to get to a game. Also, I might be at an intramural event if it's a championship night or something, intramural basketball, volleyball, whatever it might be. Just being there for oversight, making sure my staff are all good and they know what to do and everything. Also working, like I said, with all the student staff for our rec center, intramurals and everything, doing all their scheduling, training for them, doing some group fitness classes type stuff, getting students to work those, or an instructor or whatnot, scheduling those. Yeah, I think, yeah.
That's great. The theme seems to be with everybody, especially with all of us having experience at Niagara and in smaller, institutions, athletic departments, that you get a ton of experience early in your career. You get opportunities to manage things earlier in your career at a smaller institution than you would other places. And, I think that for all of us has helped springboard our careers to the point we're at now, and will continue to pay dividends for us going forward. But for the prospective students that are on the call with us, is there, as we're leaving them, can we leave them with, a newsletter or a website to read, or a podcast to listen to, that if they want to learn more about the industry, if they want to get a head start on their career now, where would you recommend they look to? Start with Alexis.
Yeah, I subscribe. It's a free subscription to D1 Ticker. So it is specific to Division I, but even now that I'm in Division II, I read it every morning. That's literally what I start my morning with. It just has news and coaches changing and everything you could imagine. And then there's also job postings in there. So that's really helpful as well. So yeah, D1 Ticker is what I would recommend. I wish I subscribed to it sooner in my career than I did.
Margot?
I subscribe to Athletic Business. Again, it's free. I get daily emails from them too. They have a ton of stories on there. Mostly, I would say most of it's college athletic related. There's a couple high school or maybe pro sport type things, but mostly college. So that's great. It's free. Like I said, you can get daily emails, or you could probably change it to weekly or whatever you want. And then also NERSA. NERSA is the governing body for collegiate recreation. So that's my type of field with campus recreation. Again, they have a ton of free content on there, learning about club sports, intramurals, outdoor adventure, really everything you could look for collegiate recreation. So NERSA is the other one.
Can you spell that acronym out for us?
Yep, NIRSA. stands for National Intramural and Recreational Sports Association.
Perfect. Taylor, any recommendations?
Yeah, for anyone that's on Twitter, I recommend YP Sports Chat. It's a weekly Twitter chat, Tuesday nights, I believe. Oh, there's one time actually. Is a different topic. It could range from anything from current events that are going on in sports to what are some of the other ones that they do? You know, specific focus like marketing or ticketing or something like that. But it's usually typically 10 questions a night. And even if you don't participate in it, like I find myself all the time, even if I don't participate in it, I go back and read what people are saying just to, you know, kind of stay informed and see what other people's thoughts are. But it's definitely one that I keep up on.
Kyle, bring us home.
I'm kicking myself because YP Sports Chat is excellent, and I need to do it more. And I know Taylor.
You had to know I was going to take that one.
I know, and I know Taylor has gotten really involved with the group that started that. Correct if I'm wrong, Taylor. But yeah, that is something I myself need to start doing. But for my realm, I really like the Sports Business Journal, which is a paid option, unfortunately. But the one that really helps me out is it's a group called SVG. It's Sports Video Group, and they have everything from articles about what teams are doing in their control rooms. One that really helped me that they gave me was a COVID-19 resource document, and I lived off that thing to make sure I could make this room as safe as possible for this year. But those would be my two. So Sports Business Journal and SVG for sure.
That's great. And I'll add my two favorites myself. I get a daily email each evening from a group called College AD. They send a nightcap of all the day's news and notes from around college athletics. And then there's another called Front Office Sports, which is really all levels of sports, professional sports, college sports, anything. And it's anything business related to do with whatever sport has happened in that day earlier. But thank you all again so much for taking the time to be a part of this panel. Thank you to all of our students that joined us.
Andy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about an internship you had back in the day.
Sure.
At the Baseball Hall of Fame, were you not?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. That was the summer, I guess, between my, sorry, I'm dating myself now. The summer between my junior and senior year, the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York has a internship program called the Steele Internship Program, which is funded by, again, I'm going to date myself, but the Steele family. He was the artist behind the Daemen Kings baseball cards from Donruss. If anybody remembers those from way back in the day, he did all the artwork for those. But the Steele Internship Program, they bring in 20 to 25 interns each summer. I worked in the membership department, so selling memberships to the Hall of Fame. There are interns in the collections department who would actually get to take in the artifacts, and they would do all the process they need to do to preserve them. We had interns in the archives and the library. It was a really, really unique and interesting experience. And I was fortunate to get that experience because a member of the Hall of Fame staff, who is now the president of the Hall of Fame, Jeff Idelson, came and spoke at an event on Niagara's campus. He spoke to all of our students at an event. And I was fortunate enough to talk to him a little bit and learn more about the internship program. But that was a really cool and fun, unique experience.
Yeah. If there's anybody out there, if you know any recent grads in the Cooperstown area, Vin Russo, Vin Russo, Mickey's Place?
I love Mickey's Place.
Yeah, he's looking for somebody to actually kind of manage that for him.
Okay.
And he wants to hire a Niagara person. So I'm looking for somebody to fill that. So, hey, thanks very much for doing this.
No, thank you. I think you heard a lot from us. So thank you for everything you've done for us all over the years.
Hey, you got questions in there too. Do you see him in the chat? There's only one in there, actually. Nick, you
Yeah.
still there?
So I thank you. And I was just gonna get to the question. We have, it's actually two questions from Nick. The first one is, he's currently in his senior year studying sport management at Brock University in Niagara, Canada. He wants to get into collegiate athletics side of the industry, but since he's in Canada, he was wondering if it was recommended if he wanted to be hired in the States to get a master's degree to help with that process. And I'm not sure, like, if some of you were in hiring capacities, if you.
Yeah, I'll start. I think it never hurts to have a master's degree, but it's not a requirement. I think the further you get on in your career and the higher you want to go within collegiate athletics, that becomes more important and something that you need to have on your resume. I'm actually working towards my master's now so that I can join the rest of the panel. I feel undereducated compared to the rest of these guys. But it's definitely not a requirement to start your career, but something that if you hope to aspire to become an athletics director or an assistant athletics director, something that will definitely help.
I would also say quickly, a lot of schools, once you're working there, they pay for at least part of your schooling to go back for a master's. So again, like you said, it's not required. So if it's something where you get hired at a school, then you can go and do your master's at that school while you're working for a highly reduced price at most places. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
or highly recommend graduate assistantship. Yeah, Taylor, sorry. And I know some of us have threw around the word GA, and I was like, I wonder if everyone knows what that means. So GA is graduate assistant. And I was told that from day one, and I would say it till the day I die. Apply for graduate assistantships. There's so many out there, instead of hopefully getting some of or of all of your schooling paid for. So GAs, GAs, GAs.
Yeah, I would have never gone to grad school if I didn't have a GA, quite honestly. It was a big thing for me. And if grad school is something that you think you want to do or know for sure that you want to do, definitely look into GAs and the NCAA market. NCAAmarket.com is always posting GAs almost every day, to the point where I texted Dr. Rohde a bunch of them the other.
And that's going to get you some experience in college athletics as well as the degree. And that's, if you want to work in sports, you have to work in sports. So that's a place to start.
The second part of Nick's question was, his school offers a 4-month internship, about 400 hours. It's not mandatory. As a student athlete, and because he was supposed to be studying abroad in England this semester, he opted not to do it because he didn't think that he could juggle it all. So the second question is, how were you all able to handle the time commitment and everything that came with being a student? Did you have to complete the hours while in classes, or was it something where that was the only thing you did for a semester?
I think we all took a different approach. I myself did it while in classes. I was, you're only in class for 2 to 3 hours a day, and I filled out the rest of my day by working in the athletics department. But Alexa, I know you talked earlier about how you did a lot of stuff in the summer because you were a student athlete.
Yeah, so I did have a little bit of a different approach to it. It was a lot of evenings, so where during the day, because of class, lift, practice, there was not really time to do it during the day. So for me, evenings, and then summer was a big one for me, especially because softball student athlete, we didn't have any summer requirements. So for me, that's where I, was it ideal that, a lot of the opportunities weren't paid? No, but it got to me where I am today. So it paid off. So that's, I think, what you got to keep in your mind all the time, that, do the unpaid stuff early on. It's going to, make you develop relationships, get you to the next step where you will get paid eventually.
Yeah, for me, I did both. And definitely my sophomore, junior, and senior year, it definitely helped kind of having that first year under my belt to know kind of how I wanted to build my class schedule to meet up with being able to go in, whether it be 2 hours a day, to spend in the ticket office and get that time to work in the ticket office. But then, of course, most of the games were on the weekends or nights, so that helped out a lot as well. But then during the summers I did, it was every summer I tried to touch a different area. So one summer I did youth sports with an organization called I9 Sports. Another summer I did the Syracuse Chiefs, who are now the Syracuse Mets, AAA baseball. And that I mostly did guest services. And then I feel like there was another one that I can't remember right now, but.
Another question that we have is, as a student at Niagara, what classes do you take when majoring in sport management?
Kyle is the most recent graduate. Why don't you handle that one?
I was just thinking that. So on the sport management curriculum card, there's classes such as like communication in sport. So you learn about teams' social media usage in sport, PR articles, stuff like that. There's recreation sport classes. So you learn about the recreation side, what YMCAs are doing, what boys and girls clubs are doing, recreation, intramural at college. Sport law. There's a sport law class that Professor Gentile teaches. You learn all about the contractual basis of what goes on behind the scenes, why certain organizations will take this contract over something else. Recently, since we have added all the broadcast equipment, there's a sport broadcasting class. So you can learn how to manage the cameras, how to use them, how to turn everything on and off in here. Oh my gosh, there's definitely more. I'm blanking.
There's a sport marketing class.
Marketing, yep.
You'll actually work, one of your big projects is you'll work with a group, usually putting together a marketing plan. And usually it's partnered with an organization. So I know when I was a student, it was partnered with Niagara Athletics, and you would have a certain game that you were marketing. And you would work on this project, and then you would actually present it to folks from the athletic department. So that was really neat. Also, the sport rec class that Kyle talked about, you do something similar, or you used to anyways, I believe you still do, where you plan your own basically program. And then you'll go over to the Kiernan Center and put on your program for the rest of the class. So that was a really neat one.
Niagara Power class as well.
Finance, policy and governance, sales.
Finance. How did I miss finance?
I've
what I do.
Finance is one of my favorite classes.
Sales was one of mine, but
I've always described it. I've always described it as it really is a business degree with a sport focus. Right. You're learning all the different intricacies of how to operate businesses, but specifically as it relates to sports.
Yeah. Because you also take accounting, economics, human resource management. So.
Another question we have is, how do we apply for jobs for sports management at Niagara while a student?
Email Kyle.
Yeah, seems like a great question for Kyle.
I'm guessing the question's referring to within like our athletic department. So it can be as simple as emailing any of us in our office. So whether that's myself, Derek, Brianna, I can leave the staff directory link in the chat, but you can email us. Even if you can email us, you can, like Taylor said, there's the NCAA job market. There are internships that come about that the professors may know of. So they will always be giving you up to date on, there's an internship at the Bisons or the Sabres or the Bills, with our contacts there. So there's tons of different avenues. I hope I'm answering the question. That's kind of how I took it to be.
Yeah, the Sport Management Association too, their social media accounts will try to share things like internships and stuff like that. So certainly those are a good resource as well.
And all the written material that we talked about earlier, so the sport business journals, the COSIDAs, those all have job postings as well. So there's so many avenues to look. I answered it. Okay, cool.
Nick followed up and asked about GAs available in Canada. And I thought that, you know, I would recommend reaching out to those different athletic departments and finding out if that is opportunities for them. I know that it's very common in the States, but I'm unsure if that's similar language in Canada. And I don't know if anybody else has any insight on that.
I don't think so. I mean, they may not call it that because their college athletic focus priority programs don't have the same magnitude that ours do. So, you know, they don't have the scholarship athletes and those kind of things. They don't have the revenue. They don't have necessarily the need for that. So, I mean, you might find some opportunities, but, you know, not nearly to the extent that we're going to have them in the States.
Perfect. Well, this was really great. I appreciate all of the panelists' time. Really great questions that came up in the chat. I'm actually going to turn it over to Ben Asher, one of the co-directors of first-year enrollment at Niagara University, and he's going to close us out for the evening.
Hey guys, first let me just say thanks to everyone on the panel tonight. You guys were awesome. Wide variety of experiences, things you've done and accomplished that I think we were able to highlight here. And just thanks again for being here and taking the time tonight. Students, for all the prospective students, thank you for joining us tonight. Really, really great to see all of you on here, see you engaged, asking questions, getting to know more about the program. A couple of current students on here, Spencer and Lauren, hello. Good to see you. So I come to you guys just really quickly when I close out tonight. I come to you from a couple of different capacities. The first capacity I want to come to you is somebody who graduated with a degree in a sport and recreation field from another university. Boo on me. But I'm born and raised in Nebraska and didn't know about Niagara and the opportunities that were offered here. And I can tell you that the things that your panelists spoke about tonight, Kyle, Taylor, Andrew, Margot, Alexis, all of them, and Professor Gentile, these were opportunities that I was not awarded. They might have been out there, but it was up to me to go hustle and find those and figure things out on my own. And they weren't as prevalent. And they just kind of said, yeah, we just hope you get your degree and you'll kind of figure things out. And, oh yeah, we have jobs, but it's, you know, you could be a ref for our mural teams. And that's about it. That was about all I had. Everything else was up to me. So to hear them talk about these opportunities, these experiences that they had, they're just unique. They really, really are. And I'm glad that all of you are interested in Niagara because I truly believe that the program that Niagara puts together and gives their students is going to separate them when they leave. And I believe, as you see in the panel tonight, it has done just that, set them up for success, move on into their careers and have a plethora of experiences that they've gained. The other capacity that I come to you from, I am tied into the sport management program in a way. I am one of the assistant coaches for the Niagara Power Baseball program, as they spoke about. I'm going on my third year. We're still reigning champs, even though virtually they said we didn't win the virtual season, but that's just silly. And so I just want to speak on, I remember, you know, Kyle was around all summer. I saw Taylor around. I saw Lauren around. Dr. Rhodey, who's joined us tonight, she convinced her whole family to go to pretty much every game, every night. And she's a professor in the department. And so have a professor there bringing literally her family, her little ones out to the games. They were helping us with preparation, stuff like that, for the professors to buy in and take care that much, to be there right next to you doing the same work is truly tremendous and speaks to the program and the professors that you'll have here at Niagara. And finally, my final capacity that I come to you is as one of the directors of enrollment here. I took a look. Almost everybody that joined us tonight, you guys have already applied. Many of you already accepted. If you have not heard about an admissions decision yet, if you've applied and you haven't heard, reach out to me. Do not hesitate. Give me a phone call. Give me an email. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll be sure to answer them. If you want to come over the summer, hopefully we'll have some fans at the games. If you want to come check out one of the Niagara Power games, reach out. I know the students. I'll get you the tickets. I know Dr. Tutta, he'll get you tickets. We'll get you into the game so you can kind of see what the students really do and check things out. But for me, I don't know that I have much else. Like I said, normally this would be where I would say, hey, you guys should go apply. But as I checked, pretty much all of you already have. So you're way ahead of the game. Just know that if you need anything, I'm here. This team of panelists are here. Our professors are here. Our students are here. And truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for joining us. I wish all of you the best. Stay healthy. Happy holidays. And if there's nothing else, I don't know if anyone from the panel has anything they want to close out. But again, thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing some of you, or hopefully all of you, in the fall.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Hopefully not.